All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Real Talk Tuesday, Veterans at Ford. My name is Brandy Joe. My pronouns are he, him, and I am so excited to have you join us today. Now, as you know, Veterans Day is on Thursday. So we wanted to chat with some of our veterans at Ford about their transitions from the military to the corporate world and their current experience here. Ford is honored to have over 6,000 veterans employed across our company in so many diverse areas like IT, HR, Ford Credit, our manufacturing facilities, product development, and so many more. Now, a fun fact, our corporate medical director, Dr. Francesca Littau, was a U.S. Navy Medical Corps commander. This is not just a PR thing or a Veterans Day thing. We have a long history of valuing military service here. Ford was one of the first companies to hire World War I veterans back in 1919 and adapt the work environment to their needs. We are so proud to support veterans and their families and many other initiatives as well. But the most important way to support them is a fulfilling career. Hopefully, you'll get a sense today of how you might be able to find a good fit here at Ford and what it's like to work here. I'm sure you'll hear it a few times throughout the session, but you can always peruse Ford's career opportunities at careers.ford.com. Now, we created the Real Talk Tuesday series to give you an exclusive opportunity to hear from 3 of our current employees about their experiences working for Ford Motor Company through an identity-based lens. Ford Motor Company believes in doing the right thing, and a part of that is welcoming employees to be their whole selves without judgment. Now, we've asked you to submit questions for our panelists in advance, and we received some terrific ones. If you didn't submit in advance and have a question that comes up during the discussion, please feel free to drop it in the chat or the Q&A section. And if we have a moment, we will get to those as well. All right, I'm going to quit talking and introduce you to our phenomenal panel. First up, we have Faith. Faith, hello. Could you please introduce yourself to our audience, tell them a little bit about your involvement in the service and what you do here at Ford?
Yeah, of course. So I'm Faith Henderson. I'm actually currently still serving. So I'm a first lieutenant. I actually drill up in the Sioux, so northern, or native to Michigan. But right now I'm currently a GDINA IT product manager. So we build code externally or internally facing for the company. And yeah, so Ford's been really great. I've been an FCG, so I came right out of commissioned and joined right out of college, and I've been with Ford ever since.
Awesome. Well, welcome. And if you don't know, FCG stands for Ford College Graduate. It's our rotational program here at Ford. Very exciting. Thank you, Faith, for joining us. Next up, we have Jim. Jim, hello. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Could you please give us a little introduction?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Hi, everyone. Yeah, so first name is Jim, even though you may notice it's spelled a little bit strange, Jiem. I'll start a little bit from the beginning. So I was actually born in Bangkok, Thailand. My father was a career Army veteran, and he had finished a tour of duty in Vietnam, landed in Thailand, met my mom, and that's where I was born. Came to the U.S. when I was about 4 or 5. So I pretty much grew up in the States, in Pennsylvania. And then I went straight from high school, first into the military. So I was in the Army for a few years, active duty, and then reserves for a handful of years after that. And I worked in Criminal Investigation Command, so CID. And then I went from the Army to college, and I went straight through from undergrad to grad degree. I'm a finance, I got a finance degree, and then I got hired by Ford, and I've been here for 28 years now. 25 of those years in finance roles. Here at Ford, we have finance roles pretty much in all the major divisions of the company, and it's pretty common to rotate around. So I've had the opportunity to be pretty much everywhere in the company. I've had the opportunity to go overseas 3 times with Ford, 2 times in Europe and 1 time in South America. Um, for a total of about 10 years. And presently, actually, I'm just starting a new role. Ford recently announced that we were going to set up a joint venture to build some new battery plants and a vehicle assembly plant in Tennessee and Kentucky. And I'm going to be the CFO for that joint venture. It's called BlueOval SK. So that's a little bit about me, and I've loved my time here at Ford, and happy to share a little bit of that with you today.
Well, that's amazing, and congrats on your new position. That is awesome, and what a life so far. That's very impressive. All right, well, last but certainly not least, Luke. Hello, welcome, welcome. Thank you for being here. Can you please tell the folks a little bit about yourself?
Yep, thanks a lot. Thanks for having me. So, this is my first adult job as at Ford Motor Company. I was active duty Air Force, C-17 Loadmaster for 12 years. If you spin the globe and throw a dart, I've been probably within a half an hour of there. I had 5 deployments downrange, and I pretty much went overseas every month that I was active duty, which is super fun. So you have some kids, and then you kind of don't want to do that anymore. The world international man of mystery, we would say. So I got out. I did Palace Chase. I'm in the Guard now in New York State. I live in Nebraska. I used the GI Bill to finish my undergraduate degree in business and then a graduate degree in business. And I got hired at Ford Credit initially under the FCG program, and completed my rotation there, which was pretty enlightening, a little different than the military. And then I just recently got hired at Ford Motor Company in the GDINA. I don't know if we're calling them divisions or departments, as a financial analyst. So now I manage the IT investment for the projects that I'm assigned.
Very, very cool. World traveler indeed.
Yeah.
Well, excellent. I am honored to be here with you all. Thank you so much for being with us today. And let's dive into these questions. So, the first one that came to us is, what did you learn about yourself during your time in the service? Jim, why don't you kick us off?
Well, as I mentioned, I went into the service right out of high school, and it was a good time to go for me because I at that moment, I didn't really know what I wanted to do in my life. I knew I wanted to serve my country. I got that from my dad. And at the time I didn't have any money for college anyway, so it was a good moment to go to learn. And I grew up real quick, I can say that. And I learned a lot of leadership skills. I would say that's the biggest thing. The importance of teamwork, working together, remaining calm under significant pressure, planning an organization, and really just taking care of each other, right? How important it is for the person on your left and the person on your right, that you take care of them. That all those kind of skills, and it can be applied in basically anything that you do, including your time here at Ford.
That's awesome. Thank you. Faith, what about you? What did you learn about
I'm
yourself?
I'm gonna piggyback. So I'm still learning. But I think one of the biggest things that comes down for me is just being dedicated. So whatever you do, being dedicated to it. The military, we kind of revolve around this dedication piece, right? Because motivation, it's not always going to be there. So being dedicated, and I really want to just piggyback off of looking out for your neighbors. So I feel like that's one thing that when you're coming from a military setting, you just are a little bit more invested in your coworkers and your friends, just like you would be as your battle buddies in the army. And I think that's really important and valuable. And I think that's something that I guess as veterans or members that are currently serving, like we can really take into the workforce. So I feel like just those are a couple of things that I've learned, and I'm still learning every day. So
That's right. You got to keep learning. I mean, that's one of the factors of life, but that's amazing. Luke, what about you? What do you have to throw in here as well?
So in my job as a loadmaster, we're constantly going all over the world, like I had mentioned earlier, which means you're working with local nationals in all these different countries, all these different environments. Sometimes it's dangerous, sometimes it's just like world travel kind of fun. And what I learned was, so I'm always in charge of what's happening in the back of the airplane. I am ultimately responsible. Whatever I say, it doesn't matter what rank anybody is. It's my airplane. I can do whatever I want. Well, if I exerted that much authority all the time, it doesn't really work. And some guys and girls do that, and they end up like noticing that the load team leaves, or all of a sudden people aren't being quite as helpful. So what I've learned is, even though I have to be responsible for what's happening, that doesn't necessarily mean I don't use the same skills everywhere. in the United States, like let's say I'm assessing who's there. There's a very motivated and skilled group of people that they kind of seem like they know what they're doing. I may just stand back and watch them, even though I could be the one barking out what to do. But now you throw me in Mombasa where nobody speaks English or has any idea what's going on with this. This will be the first time they've seen this. Now I need to be a little assertive. So the same mindset and skill of trying to assess who am I working with and what do we need? Who do I need to be for this project or team or group, and then applying that. So I'm a different guy depending on what scenario you put me in, because at the end of the day, all you're trying to do is succeed. And even if you're in charge, it doesn't mean you need to let people know it. You can just know to yourself, hey, I got it. I got us loaded up in 30 minutes and we're ready to go, even if I just sit there. So I just try to assess the situation and decide who do I need to be.
That's amazing. And I mean, we talk about it all the time here at Ford, the Ford family. And I really do. It's one of my favorite aspects of working for the company is that bond you feel. And I can't even imagine the bond you must feel like from the people that that you served with. That must just be an incredible feeling. So that's one of the things that just immediately came to mind listening to all of you is that connection you must have and that trust in one another. It just must be something really incredible to experience that. So that's very, very cool. All right, so the second question is, what were some of the things you enjoyed most about being in the service? So Faith, you're still in the service. I'll rearrange this question a little bit for you, but so far, what are some things that you've enjoyed the most?
I feel like this is a cop-out answer, but it's just true. The traveling and experiences. So just this year alone, while still maintaining my civilian career, I was actually down in DC for a little bit during some of the civil unrest. Got to be a part of that and help out with that. I also got to go to Liberia. Like I feel like I'm in my group with my team, and they're just like, "Oh, what are you doing? Like in your vacation?" Like, "Oh, I'm going to Liberia to help out, foreign nations and help them get their soldiers up to speed." And like that's just something that you don't get the ability to like say elsewhere. So kind of a cop out answer, but traveling and getting to experience those different culturally enriching events that you normally wouldn't be able to.
I don't think that's a cop-out answer at all. I think that's a terrific answer. Um, Luke, I'm gonna come over to you. What were some things that you enjoyed most?
And I'm still in the Guard as well, up in New York State. Um, it's the other people. It's the people around you, the guys and girls. There's like a look that you give each other when you've just done something really neat that says 1,000 words. Just kind of like a little giggle or a chuckle when you're like, "Can you believe we just low leveled, over Afghanistan and dropped this stuff out and I almost fell out of the plane," or whatever the case may be. Or that's like the kind of dangerous giggle, or there's like "Can you believe we're in Thule, Greenland, literally on top of the entire planet? Like you can't use your compass anymore because you're too high, you're above it." So there's just that kind of shared experience that my friends here, I can try to explain it to them, but it's kind of like they don't get the joke, that it just doesn't have the same thing as you're making eye contact with somebody that you've been through something pretty unique with, and there's usually kind of like a giggle. Can you believe we just did that kind of thing?
I love it. Jim, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all that. I'm no longer serving, but I really enjoyed that camaraderie and the teamwork, and really being able to come together when something serious is going down, and you got to get the job done, and just being able to rely on your team, knowing they have your back, and then when the job's done, that's sort of just hanging out and having fun together. It's that whole team vibe. Um, I think the other thing that was great was I never, it was sort of like we were all the same. It didn't matter like where you came from and what your background was. It's sort of like all that you check that at the door, and you're all part of the same big family. So that was cool.
Awesome. All right, so this next question is, tell us about your journey transitioning from the military to civilian life. and I know the two of you, since you're still serving, I'm sure you can still speak to this. But let's start off, Luke. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience with that transition?
It's hard. It was hard. It's still, I'm 5 years in this new job. I finally feel like I'm transitioned. It took me about 5 years to really fully feel like it. The first meeting that I held, I got 12 or 15 direct reports, my manager's in the very back and feverishly taking notes. And I was like, oh, I'm killing this. I'm like, they are digging my style. When we get done, we go to, kind of debrief, and I go to her office and the clipboard was all words or expressions I said that I'm not allowed to say at work. Apparently, you can't call people that are late for tasks criminals. You can't say I don't want to crack skulls, like little jokes. I'm just dry humor had been so ingrained in military service. I mean, people aren't even laughing. Just everything is just dry humor and everywhere. So after that meeting, I realized I don't know how to talk. So I had to kind of change the way I described everything, because I'm obviously not trying to call people a criminal. But if you were supposed to do some training event by a certain day, we'd always, in the military, you'd make an Excel spreadsheet. People are now red on the training thing, and then they're the criminals and all that. But so that was tough. And another thing that I thought was a little tough was people don't make the association that military service can always translate to what you're doing. Like if I was to say something like, well, when I worked at this other bank, we would do it this way, people might listen. But if you say, well, in the military, they just assume, well, not everybody, but a lot of times I've found that people assume that doesn't mean anything here. And you're like, well, I'm not talking about charging over a hill. I'm talking about we had 1,000 people and 1,000 tasks, and this is how we did that together. It has nothing to do with anything you saw in Full Metal Jacket. I'm talking about making people get trained. And so that dismissal is a little tough at first. So I started to not say in the military. I would just say my last job, and hopefully people just didn't remember my last job was in the military. But I would say as a company, the company is doing everything they could possibly do. I've never felt more supported. Like the company has everything in place I serve on the board of the Veteran Network Group, and I'm the director of Guard and Reserve Affairs, and we're constantly trying to figure out what needs to do. Currently serving, that's my role now, is currently serving uh, members, employees. What do we do to support them? Recently, when the Afghanistan debacle happened, we realized that a lot of our employees were upset. I was very upset, and so we got together and held some, like, I don't even know what the heck you call them, some kumbaya, everybody come in sessions. And we had hundreds of veterans come in there and share how they were feeling. We kind of moved through it together. So that doesn't always mean that there's not going to be some road bumps, as roadblocks or bumps in the road, I guess, as you're switching over. But the company has been nothing but great. I told them when I was applying that I was still in the Guard because I wasn't sure how employers would view it, to be honest. Like I just didn't know. But I was like, if they don't like this, I'd rather they knew it before they hired me so that I'm not fighting against this. And the company, they hired me in every job I've gotten here. They've been super supportive. So um, finding things at our company, like the Veteran Network Group, finding other veterans, finding someone that you attach to. Like I had a mentor that had nothing to do with the military, but I would just kind of bounce stuff off of them, what I was thinking about doing. And they would either tell me, do not do that, or that sounds like a great idea. So I feel the company, it's a long answer there, but I'm very passionate about this part. The company has nothing but support for this. It took a little while, and it is definitely frustrating sometimes, but I've never been prouder. I said when I started this work as a civilian, I wasn't going to sell my soul to make widgets, and I have never felt like that at this company. I've always felt empowered to do what I would do, with customers or whoever. So long answer, but I'm pretty passionate about this switch.
No, that's a great answer. And I mean, I would view, if you were to ever say to me that same thing, well, when I was in the service, XYZ, I would be more apt and more interested in what you had to say than if you said in my last job. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you're able to, while here, speak openly and honestly about it, because I think that those experiences are amazing. And yeah, that's really cool. Thank you for sharing all of that. Jim, what about you? What was your journey like in that transition?
Yeah, I would say it was really good, honestly, because as I said earlier, I went high school, then I served, and then I went to college and Ford. So I had that, I call it that transition time between the service and Ford. It was college in the middle, both my undergrad, and then I went and got my MBA. So I think it was a pretty smooth transition. When I came to Ford, I have to be honest, at first I was a little bit nervous when I was here for the interviews. And there was, a handful of others. We were kind of in the room, so you kind of see who you were competing against, and I was nervous about how my military experience was going to stack up against some of these other folks who were there with, you know, um, banking backgrounds and all these other backgrounds that we were applying for finance jobs. So I didn't know how the military was going to kind of fit into that, how people were going to perceive that. But as it turns out, I actually believe that it was a competitive advantage for me to have that experience versus the other backgrounds that these folks had, because even though they had some technical background, I'll call it, they don't have the same leadership experiences that you get when you're in the military. When you're interviewing for jobs, there's kind of a couple of different pillars that I think companies look at. One is that technical background, like it's kind of your education, it's your experience. All of that is important, and I think that helps you to get the interview. But I think what gets you the job, it's your leadership skills, and it's your ability to demonstrate your leadership skills. And if it wasn't for the military, I think I wouldn't have been able to demonstrate that so early. And so I think it really was the secret for me to land the job at Ford.
That's amazing. And Faith, what about for you? How has this transition been? How is it going?
So I would say that I guess this is all I've ever known, right? So my first real person job, as Luke said, was, I was an ROTC and I commissioned around 5 years ago now. And I've always been dual hatting. And for me, I've never really ran into any complications. I mean, I've had extended leaves for when I was gone for 6 months or just, a couple, 2 weeks. I've never had to turn down a position in the Army or a position at Ford and worry that the other one was not going to be there for me. I've always had the security that, if I want to go and try to better myself in my military career, my job's always going to be there for me. And for me, that kind of gives me, I guess, the security to go out and take those risks and do those experiences and really gather more knowledge and bring it back to the company and bring it back to, my unit as well. So I've been really lucky that I've never had to worry, never fear. And I've had friends, in different occupations in the guard, and that's not the case, right? They leave and their boss is cutting their hours or, unethical things. But I've never once had to say, I need to turn down this opportunity because, my job's not going to be there. So they've been fully supportive. My supervisors have been fantastic. Actually, one of my supervisors was a captain, so he really gets it. But that's the kind of environment that I think Ford really builds around their veterans and folks that are currently serving.
Yeah, it definitely seems like it gives you some freedom. Like you mentioned security, but it gives you that freedom to know, to not be weighted down with that stress of like, will I be able to go do this and this? It's like knowing that you can must be quite a relief, I would imagine.
Hmm.
So it kind of leads into our next question, and you sort of, many of you have touched on it, but I'm curious if you have anything additional to add, which the question is, how has Ford helped during the transition from military to civilian life? So Faith, I know you just sort of touched on, that willingness to allow you to be involved with both. Are there other examples you might have of how Ford has helped with that transition or is helping with it?
Yeah, so I would just say once again, to kind of hit it, it's just understanding. Being able to put something on your calendar and your supervisor not scoff and get angry or just understanding. I mean, like I said, I was gone for 6 months and I was a little worried, right? That's a long time to be gone. And never a negative impression, never anything. And still, what I think is also really important is I still got treated the same way as my counterparts that weren't serving, right? It's never like I was the black sheep because I was gone all the time. So I would just say understanding and just that kind of equality and even playing field with some of my counterparts.
That's awesome. Jim, what about for you? You touched on some of this as well. Is there anything else that you might want to add?
No, I think the last answer was probably what I could, best I could share.
Great. What about you, Luke?
Just the people here, my coworkers, they've all been super supportive. They're all very inquisitive. Some of them, like recently there was I got a lot of support emails from and messages from friends because they knew I'd invested a lot of time in overseas, and that they knew that I was pretty bummed out, you know. But yeah, so I think we've all pretty much covered it. As a company, I don't think they could do anything else. We haven't touched on it too, but if you get paid less in the military than you do at Ford, they give you differential pay up to, it's like 2 weeks, I think, up to 2 weeks. So you can file your LESs with them, and that's your leaving earnings statement. That you can give that to them, to Ford as them, and they will make sure that you don't lose money by going to serve in the military, which I thought was pretty neat. Definitely didn't expect that.
Yeah, that is very cool. So I think some of you have touched on this question, and I'm going to sort of tie it in with a question I know we have coming up. So the question is, what are some other ways Ford can contribute to former service members? Now, I know, Luke, you previously touched on our ERG here at Ford, which is the Ford Veterans Network Group. And I think you had mentioned another one as well. So I want to maybe touch on both of these. So ways that Ford can contribute to former service members, and also like tying in with that employee resource group. Could you start us off, Luke? And I know you mentioned it earlier. Could you talk a little bit about your experiences within that ERG?
Yep. So I know that we are actively recruiting military. So they're going to look at colleges and talk to their ROTC um, sections. We have a whole different. I'm new in this role, so I haven't heard a lot of how the campaign is going. But I know we do have a campaign of trying to onboard veterans. Um, and from the ERG standpoint, it's very, very open. We're very, very well supported by the company, and just like that most recent time when we held those kind of community sessions, that was just something that happened real time, and we got together. There's local chapters of that organization, so people can get together with others and share their experiences. So as of right now, I think that we really do a great job.
Awesome. And Jim, are you involved with that as well, with that employee resource group?
Yeah, no, I've attended a few things. Luke's more involved than me. One thing I wanted to build on that he said earlier, though, that was, really important, and that was when the Afghanistan withdrawal happened, and the veterans group set up a forum in which veterans could come to and just have a place to say whatever was on their mind, and it was really powerful. I mean, when it all, I'm a pretty calm person, and when all this went down, I was like really upset with it, and I was like, who who am I talking to? I could talk to my wife, but I don't think she has the same appreciation of it. And just going to this forum that they set up, I didn't say a whole lot, but I listened, and it just really helped. And it was just great to, have this ability to do this at work. I mean, just to take the time to be involved in something other than your day to day. And I just thought it was great that, one, that Ford had the group, and two, that they were, allowing time and enabling the ability for veterans to get together in this, environment and talk about this. And I thought that was great. Um, the other thing that I have always appreciated, we haven't been doing the last couple of years with COVID, but Ford does this big Veterans Day celebration, um, in the office, and they have this big ceremony, and they bring in um, bands and veterans from the different services, and we have this big event, and it's just, and people that are not veterans at Ford come to that to to celebrate the veterans, and I always thought that was really cool.
That's awesome. And Faith, are you involved with the Veterans Resource Group as well, the network group rather?
So they've been trying to loop me in for a little while, and I finally am like, okay, I got enough time. But I've also been on the opposite side too, right? So when I was recruited, I was still on the fence if I wanted to go active or if I wanted to stay National Guard. And like them coming in and recruiting at our school and me figuring out, okay, I can have a really great career here. I can do both, and having something kind of in my back pocket that really kind of made me, for my personal choice, walk away from active duty, but made National Guard a more lucrative choice for me. So I've kind of been on the actual recruiting side of it. So no complaints about that. So yeah.
Can I add
Awesome.
one thing to that about that session? The company let us bring in professional like consultants that lead these sort of sessions. So the moderators were professionals, which they didn't even blink an eye at. We started talking, hey, we should get together with everybody. I'm sure a lot of us are not working efficiently because we're mad. And they gave us the ability to bring in outsiders that are professionals at this stuff, and they would meet with us beforehand, and then we would kind of steer the sessions. I just thought that was a really cool thing. It was just not just they let us have the forum; they funded somebody that's a professional to come help us.
That is awesome, and that's what's so great about our employee resource groups. They give you that opportunity to connect with the community, and I know I mentioned the Ford family before, but there are so many opportunities within the company as well to connect with people that share your experience or an experience that you're interested in, because anyone can join this veterans group as well, like all the employee resource groups. Like if I would like to know more, correct?
Yep, anybody can.
Yeah, and I think that's really cool, that opportunity to build more communities within this large family that we have, I think is a really, really cool opportunity here.
We had a lot of employees come that were parents or siblings of military members because they didn't quite understand what their mother or father or brother or son was going through. And so we got a lot of messages from employees afterwards that were like just so appreciative that they could come and see and understand what their family member was going through, which I thought was pretty powerful.
That is powerful. I mean, today it's very eye-opening to me. There's lots of these experiences of course, not familiar with, and it's a moving experience, and I feel very fortunate to be here with you all. So thank you. All right, so the next question, I feel all of you have touched on this to some degree, but I'm curious if you have some specific examples maybe, and that's how did your experience in the military help prepare you for your career at Ford? I feel all of you have touched on that to some degree, but I would love to hear it sort of, I guess, a little bit more focused in on that particular question. Jim, can I start with you, please?
Yeah, I lean back into leadership, right? I think that um, when you come into Ford, what's really going to separate you over the course of time, it's going to be your leadership skills. It's going to be your ability to, come together with a group of people and work on complex issues and complex problems and find a way to get it done um, in a quality way with integrity, moving fast, and taking care of everybody along the way. And recognizing that there's nothing most things that you do, you don't do by yourself. It requires the help of many. And so that sort of importance of teamwork, remaining calm under pressure, because it's a different kind of pressure, right? It's not the pressure that you have in battle, but you still have timelines and deadlines and lots of things that create stress for you. But your ability to remain calm in those situations, your ability to plan and organize, your ability to communicate, right, to folks is really important. I think all of those, what I would call softer skills, was really what helped me at Ford, um, to really, make a career over a long period of time. Of course, you need the technical skills. If you're going engineering, you have to have the engineering skills. If you're going into finance, you have to have the business background. If you're in IT, you have to have that. So you have to have all those to kind of get your foot in the door, but the way you separate yourself is going to be leadership. And I think the military gives that so much to you. And that's what really was, what helped me to prepare for the career at Ford.
Awesome. Luke, what about for you?
Yeah, so leadership for sure. At our mid-level professional military education is called the NCO Academy. They specifically, one of the lessons that really stuck with me was they basically broke people down into 4 types of person in a group. You're either one of these 4 areas, and it really has helped me leading teams, building teams, being members of teams, as you're trying to figure out who's filling these 4 functions, and do I need to be, I know where my strengths are, but maybe there's plenty of people that are outgoing, and I don't need to be an idea maker here because nobody's writing stuff down. So just basically having to accomplish so many different things with so many different people in the military, and learning how to do that without conflict. Because like the analytical people used to drive me nuts because you'd make an idea, then they're shooting holes in it, and then I realized you need them because my idea might have sounded great, but it wouldn't have worked. So learning how to be on teams without there being conflict, or sometimes there will be, but learn how to be on teams. Sometimes I need to be the leader, sometimes I don't. So that's, I think, what I take away the most is when I look at a task, I'm assessing, do we have everything we need, or do I need to do something else to make sure this gets done?
Great. And Faith, what about you?
I'm gonna have to go along the same lines of leadership. So my jobs are both very similar. So, either leading a company, making the plan, or leading a product team and making the plan. So the fact that I kind of have a one-to-one. So in this case, it's software, but in the other case, it's, a tactical mission. But at the end of the day, the same core principles apply, making sure you have the right plan, a feasible plan, somebody to bounce your ideas off of, and then making sure you have the resources, personnel, and there's no conflicts with that. It's all about problem solving at the end of the day. And I think the Army really makes really good problem solvers, because sometimes we don't always have everything we need, but we always get the job done.
I love that. All right, so the next question is, what sort of advice might you give to other veterans or folks who are currently serving who might be on the fence about applying to a job at Ford? Luke, I'm going to start with you.
Join the ERG, join the Veteran Network group. But I would say reach out to us. Reach out to anybody that's currently working here. Find a mentor. Like my mentor when I joined was somebody that I just meshed with. She did not serve in the military, but she was like my guiding light the entire time. I would not have done as well without her. And like I said, and I'm being totally honest, I'm here on purpose today to talk to you guys. If I thought that I had to compromise myself, because that's something that I've loved about my military job, is I am always doing it for Queen and Country. Like, you never have to doubt what you're doing. And I said, I don't know how this is going to go, but I'm not going to sell my soul to make widgets. And I'm happy to be here. So I'm going on my 5th year, and I've never felt like that. So I just couldn't imagine anywhere better to work.
Awesome. Thanks, Luke. And Faith, what about you? What sort of advice might you give to folks?
I would say there's nothing wrong with trying to get in there, trying to talk to people, and just kind of seeing it for yourself, right? But talking to people if you have a resource of somebody that's can kind of show you how their process went, their transition, or their work life, balance. Really just getting that mentor. So for me, I actually did have one that was actually in the Army, so I got to bounce ideas off of him. And sometimes it's good because you have somebody in your corner that can tell you, hey, you need to put your Army hat on right now. And it's just like, oh, okay. So finding somebody that can kind of give you that guidance, but just doing it. I think that if you're on the fence, I would say there's nothing wrong with trying and seeing if it works out, because I was on the fence and it worked out really well for me. So.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. Jim, what about you? What sort of advice might you have for folks who may be on the fence?
Well, I mean, I can tell you, when I joined Ford 28 years ago, I didn't know what to expect, and it wasn't like I had this thought right from the beginning, like, oh, okay, this is the place I'm going to spend my entire career. But I can tell you that it's been a great place to be, and honestly, I can't believe that it's been 28 years. It just goes by like a blink of an eye. It's a great place to build a career. There's many different disciplines here, right? So there's many things that you can do here. It's a large global company, so you have a lot of opportunities to move around. If you so choose, you have an opportunity to go abroad, right? I had an opportunity to do that 3 times. And it's a really cool industry. I mean, everybody, mostly associates with some kind of a vehicle somehow. So the automobile is a really interesting product and interesting industry, and it's only going to get more interesting because our products now are more than just about getting you from point A to point B, with all of the technology that's being added, electrification. It's just a really cool place to be and to see the technology go on top of, maybe a traditional manufacturing company. So I think it's really a great place to be. Um, and your skills in the military are going to apply here. So if you're wondering like, well, I don't know if I'm going to fit in, you don't have to wonder about that. You mentioned up front, all the veterans that we have there. There's thousands here. We're just three of them. It's a company that values veterans. There's a place for you. Your skills are going to fit, and it's a cool place to be. So what are you waiting for?
Heck yeah, go to careers.ford.com. You just led right into that just beautifully. So I think we have time maybe for one more question. And this is, I mean, going kind of along the same lines of what we're talking about right now. And that's, what was the biggest deciding factor in you accepting your role here at Ford? And I feel like some of you, like I could probably make a guess on this based on some of the answers you've previously given, but I would love to hear it directly from you. So Faith, let's start with you. What was the biggest deciding factor in you accepting your job here?
Yeah, so, and like I said, I was in a real delicate situation of, deciding what I wanted to do with my life. Did I want to commit fully, or did I want to, do the, I say part-time very loosely. But for me, it was seeing that I could do both and I could do both proficiently. So the fact that I didn't have to compromise a civilian career versus my military career, and I could kind of have my cake and eat it too. And that was because I talked to people and I got to see that, and I got to see the support, and even in recruiting sessions, just the fact that no one kind of batted an eyelash and was kind of, skeptical. It was always, they always took what I had to say of, what I had learned and what I was going to continue to learn, and took that for, you know, the growth that I could provide for the company. So yeah, I would just have to boil it down to the fact that I could do both and not have to compromise on either one.
Awesome. And Jim, what about for you? What was that deciding factor?
Well, I think for me it was because Ford was a company that presented a lot of different opportunities, right? So it wasn't like when I was interviewing, I wasn't interviewing for just like that one job. It was really an interviewing for a career path that, and I came in the finance, and like I said, we have finance everywhere in the company, and so I had the opportunity to go to a lot of places in the company, and just having that, knowing that I had that ability to have great diversity of roles over the course of time, the opportunity to go abroad, etc. To me, that's what caught my eye, in coming to Ford.
Awesome. And Luke, close us out here. What was your deciding factor?
Well, as we said, I got hired in the FCG program, and so that was pretty neat that they were going to show me around. So I got to serve in all the different roles, because as Faith said, her job is pretty much similar. Mine is not. I do not throw people and stuff out of airplanes at Ford Credit or Ford Motor Company. So they are completely different worlds. So I liked that FCG entry where I got to kind of touch on all the little different areas and learn about how do we finance our sales. And it was great fun. I did it. Supposed to be like 18 months, but all the training in the military, you're constantly in another round of training for something. So it was pretty easy to move through all those little areas, and I thought that was a great start. That and vacation. I was pleased with the vacation schedule because I had just had an interview at like a trucking company to be a fleet manager, and they'd offered me a role, and it was 5 days of vacation, which included sick time. And I was like, what? What? No. And like to start out with 80 hours of vacation, and then it quickly starts ramping up to over 100. I was like, because I like my job, but I definitely like not working. So all vacation time they give us is pretty good, I think.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much. And I know, Jim, if anyone out there in the audience listening is found this event through Handshake, you probably got it from a campaign sent from me, and you can connect with Jim through there. Faith or Luke, are either of you on LinkedIn if anyone wanted to reach out to you? Faith is nodding yes. Luke, are you there as well?
Yep.
All right, great. So that's a great way to reach out if you have more questions that we weren't able to get to. Our time is up. I know someone I just saw pop up as the best recruiting resource for veterans, the Career Job Board. And yes, careers.ford.com is the best place. You can find the 4 college graduate positions. You can find intern positions that we have coming up this summer. And you can also find full-time positions here at Ford. So again, that's careers with an S, .ford.com. And really appreciate everyone who was here joining us today. And to our panel, thank you. And all those out there in attendance who are in or have been in the service, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. We are so incredibly grateful for you. And I'm so grateful for all of you being here today. So thank you again, panelists. It was wonderful to have you. And everyone have a terrific day. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.